All right, so let's make another video on antinatalism. Um, but I was actually going through my antinatalism playlist and just trying to check out different topics that I covered because I never had, a discussion on these specific issues in this new format. So I thought it would be a good opportunity to just go into more details for one specific one. And I was looking at them and tried to find one interesting one. And I guess one of the things that I've been recently talking about with my friends was about the issue of parents and the high position that we usually put our parents. We usually put them in very kind of sacred, loving position in our society. So I thought, okay, let's just look at that and see how we can, if it's justified, that sort of position, and if it is, how can we justify it? All right, so I guess the main reason that we usually put them in a very high position in our mind is the position of authority that they usually had during our childhood. So that kind of sticks in our mind that they have this top position, top priority in our life. But I guess when you get older and you start thinking about it, one of the things that seems to be difficult to answer is all the struggles and everything that they did for us as when we were a child. And this is also the answer that you will get if you directly ask them. Like, okay, so if you tell them, like, what did you do for me? Like, if you tell them, hey, I believe that you are a selfish person for bringing me into this world and it was not out of love, what they respond is, if it weren't out of love, then why did I do all these things that I did? Like, I carried you for, your mom would say, like, carried you for this couple of months, and then I feed you, your dad worked really hard, all these things just to provide for you what you needed. And if you hear to these stories long enough, you start to get a similar sense that, yeah, they actually really sacrificed lots of things for us. Doesn't that mean that they deserve our love in return? I would say yes and no. Because it's a little bit difficult to actually separate because they're not pure evil, they're not pure good. So it would be a combination of different things, and we really don't know what they did for themselves, what they did out of love. So it would be a little bit difficult. But I want to focus on that specific part that basically compels us to say yes, that they did it out of love, and that's basically all they did for feeding us and clothing us and all these necessary things that they had to do when you have a baby, right? And it seems that we usually take those actions as an indication of their love. Now, if you are an antinatalist, by the way, I'm trying to say it antinatalist because antinatalism was a little bit difficult for me to pronounce. I don't know why I started calling it antinatalism, it just came naturally. But antinatalism makes more sense. So if you're an antinatalist, you might know the answer to that, right? You would say, okay, I didn't ask to be born, so when you have a baby, that's what you need to do. When you decided to have a baby to reproduce, you knew that it would come with all these responsibilities. It's not like that you didn't know. You sign up for this the moment that you decided, hey, let's have a child, right? You knew that you had to feed them, you had to clothe them, you need to pay for their education, etc. So we know the answer is pretty straightforward, but the point is that we still don't feel it that way. I mean, even myself, sometimes I think about all the stories and everything that happened to me and everything that my parents did for me during my childhood, and I get that sense of love, that sense that like they sacrificed, they struggled so much to bring me up, and sometimes it becomes difficult to really justify it by only saying this thing, by only saying that hey, it was part of what they had to do. If you get, for example, a pet, you knew that you the moment that you bought it, you have to feed him, you have to take it for a walk or something if you have a dog. So it's a total package, right? So it's the same thing here. You can't just say I didn't know that I had to feed them, so I guess now it's on you that I'm feeding you, and I'm doing this just purely out of love. I didn't have to do it. Well, you do have to do it. And so yeah, even when I know the answer, it's still something deep within me telling me that they sacrificed something, and they did something out of love. Now, I guess the problem is that the argument that we are coming up, saying that, hey, this comes as a package, it's not strong enough to basically, pull it out from its roots, that feeling that, hey, like, yeah, they really did sacrifice for us. I guess a stronger way, that's usually that I approach it, is to go back in time. So let's assume that everything that they did when we were born, it's on us. They sacrificed and they did it out of love, and we have to appreciate that. We have to respect them because of that. And let's assume that's the case. Then I will start going back in time. I would say, okay, like imagine you're talking to your parents and they're claiming that yes, we sacrificed and we did this out of love, as not my parents, but I was talking to another parent, and that's what she said, that she's doing everything out of love. All right, so let's go back to your first months of pregnancy. Now things will start changing in your body, and you will have some weird things happening to you when you're pregnant, and it will be some difficulties, right? It won't be. I don't know. It wouldn't be that hard, but at least you would have some sensations that are not normal. And so the struggle that you would have in the first months of pregnancy, is that on the baby? Now the answer is either yes or no. They would be like, yes, I'm struggling during the first months of pregnancy because I want this baby to be born. I'm like, okay, let's go back further. Like, let's go back on the moment of conception. Like, we all know, like, we're adults, you have to struggle to make a baby. It's not that easy. What about those struggles? Are they on the baby too? Like are those struggles also out of love? Like, you're doing them for the child, and later on you can just put it on him, hey, like, I did that for you. And if they say yes, I will even go back further. I will be like, okay, Mom, like, what about all the struggles that you had during high school? What about those struggles? Are those on me too? And I believe there's one point that they will start saying no. Like, how the struggles that I had during my high school, how can I put them on you? You don't have to pay for those struggles. You don't have to respect me for those struggles. But if that's true, then I can always make a case that actually what you did struggle, the struggles that you had in your high school, that led to like the good education that you get, that led you to the good job that you got, and that led you to the opportunities and the payroll, and that money that you had made it available so you can get pregnant by me. So it was kind of still in line with my coming into existence. So how is it that part is not on me? But that's not really important. If they say no at any point, like if you go back in time, they're gonna say no somewhere, right? So even though you don't exist at that point, I don't care. Let's just say they say no. So there's one point in time that what they're struggling with is not on us. Right? They're not doing it out of love for us. We don't exist. Still years until we exist, right? And then in this future, when we are born and they're feeding us, they claim that it's on us. Now this is a continuous function, so which basically means that there's a threshold somewhere we are crossing the line. And the question is, where is that? Like, where is that line? Where is it that up to that moment, whatever you're doing, whatever struggles your parents go through, it's on them. You know, it's their own decisions. They're doing their own thing. It's on life. But after a point, it becomes out of love, and now it's on us, and then we have to appreciate they're doing it. But where is that line? Like, if you think about it, it would be a completely arbitrary line. You know? Even if it's a moment's conception, like, when exactly? At which second? At which minute? Like, up to a certain point. Like, imagine your dad working, you know? Like, the conception is happening, I don't know, in a hospital or somewhere. That's just the case that it is, you know? You can't get pregnant naturally. It's happening in a hospital. And your dad couldn't be there. He has to work, and he's working. So up to that moment, up to that hour, that minute, that second, every struggle that your dad is going through, like, he's working really hard. Up to that point, up to that second, everything that he's doing is for himself and the family. And the moment that you pass through that, then suddenly all the load now is shared with you too. But that doesn't make sense, because the nature of the work hasn't changed. Your dad is still doing the same thing that he was doing. He's still doing the effect of the same decision that he had. You see, the decision hasn't changed. So to me, it's arbitrary. And in addition, that baby did not want to be born, because if the baby actually asked to be born, then we could actually make the case legally to say yes. And I meant logically. I mean, not legally. We're not going to sue their parents, but logically, at the moment, you can say yes. Now that person is asking to be part of the family, right? And from tonight, he's joining our family, and from tonight everything is now shared. If that makes sense. But that's not even the case here, because we didn't ask to be born. So what we are doing is that from an arbitrary moment in time, we're not only imposing existence on someone, we're also imposing the responsibilities of what we are doing based on the decision that we made on them. And if that's a weird thing to do, which I believe it is, you know, that's like throwing a party, buying a lot of food. Now, if someone wants to join your party, then, okay, now what you did, what you provided, they have a share in it, right? You did it for them, for your guests. But if I throw a party and then grab someone from the street, throw them in my house, and say, now you're part of your party, now I can be happy that the struggles that I went through to provide this party partially is also on you. You know, I did it for you, so you can have a good time here. I played this music, I brought this food, so you can enjoy. But the guy's like, you brought me here. You forced me into this room. I didn't ask to be here. So if you put these things together, then you start to see that, yeah, it actually doesn't make any sense. And the point of arbitrariness of that point, of that threshold, comes to play because now you can play with it, you know? Like, where is that line? And if it's arbitrary, if you cannot put it at 1 month's pregnancy and 9 months when they're born, like imagine a baby is just born and you're feeding them. How can you put the responsibility of what you're going through on that newborn baby? Like, who are they? They didn't ask to be here. We just forced them here. They're crying. They're hungry, and we're feeding them. I'm like, you see, I'm doing that out of love for you. And I believe you can't push that line forever. Like, there's no point at which you can say, hey, I mean, assuming that the person stays on this thing that, hey, I didn't ask to be born, you know? You can push this thing. Okay, even if you're 30 years old, even if you're 40 years old, and if you have a problem, and they help you with that problem, I still think you can make the case that it's not out of love. It's still basically cleaning up after themselves. So it's not something on you. So imagine you bring up someone and they have this mental illness. They're paralyzed or something. And in addition, they have a mental illness. You go up to 40, 50. That child is going to live with you forever until it dies or you die. You're still cleaning up after yourself. There's nothing on that person who's paralyzed and he can't do anything with his life. He's mentally ill. He's not able to function properly. It's on you. So just the fact that someone else will function normally does not, again, impose arbitrarily some responsibility on them. So even if you turn out to be a normal human being, you're 40 years old, you're 50 years old, I still think that if your parents, they wouldn't be alive by that point probably, but even if they are, what they do still counts as cleaning up after why they decided. There's nothing, there cannot be anything on you as a child because you didn't ask to be here. So I believe that way of thinking is much stronger than just saying that, hey, it just comes with it. And this form might be able to remove those sense of guilt that we have sometimes toward our parents, that we like, man, like, I guess I feel like that I didn't appreciate what they did for me. Or if you hear other people appreciating what their parents did for them, you start to feel a little bit uneasy. You're like, I don't know. On one hand, I feel like all those stories, like thousands of stories of sacrifices that they did. But on the other hand, you also feel like something's wrong. And I believe this hits the nail that we didn't ask to be born, and that imposition of responsibilities as arbitrary as that moment of time that they're choosing for these responsibilities. So I guess that's it. I'm not on the side of like hating parents or being angry at them, because in the end, like they didn't really know, they were not aware. I mean, we're living in a toxic society where people are not aware. They think that's just a normal thing and they do it. And if you talk to them and if you let them know, as I did with my parents, and explain to them, and they become actually aware of these things, they accept your conclusion. They like, actually, I agree. Like, we shouldn't have had you, So I wouldn't blame them in that sense, but I wouldn't count what they did as love either. It's what you decided. I was not involved. It's your decision. It's your mess. And as long as you're doing these things, you're still cleaning up. Cheers.